Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. January seems to have flown by for me anyways. 2025 is off to a fast start, but anyways, maybe that's just over here in my world. We battled some sickness in my family at the end of January, and so it's really great that now we're celebrating my baby just turned 10, so I don't really truly have a baby at my house anymore, which is really weird, but other than that, things have been going great in my world. I hope things are going great in your world, and you're hanging in there. I know this season before, it's kind of like after winter break and before spring break comes, it's kind of a little bit of a long season. So hang in there, you're doing great. Today's episode is why are there so many pieces to curriculum design? I love talking about curriculum. If you haven't noticed, I have a whole course about curriculum design called Curriculum Design Roadmap. And actually, I started out with a membership site called Harmony Membership. You can look for both of those links in the show notes or just head to thedomesticmusician.com and you'll see them there. And I love talking about curriculum because I think it's important. It's something that even when going through my bachelor's program to get my music education degree, I just remember taking classroom management. We talked about lesson planning. We talked about the fact that you would have, resources and things to teach from. They would mention the word curriculum. I knew what a curriculum map was, but I was never really told how to create my own curriculum or how to make it work for my students, or what if I don't want to follow this the way it's outlined for me. And so I became passionate about it because I've shared this so many times on this podcast, but my very first teaching position right out of college, I didn't have anything to teach with. Except for some old textbooks. And so without really even knowing what it was called, I kind of by default started to plan my own curriculum. Thinking through, what do I want to teach? Where are my students at? They haven't had music in 7 years. How am I going to get the fifth graders to a fifth grade level? What songs and activities can I find that would be good for them to learn? What are they interested in? What am I interested in for that matter? And so without knowing the pieces to curriculum design, I started slowly planning out my curriculum. So in a way, all these years later, my gosh, that was 20 years ago. I'm aging myself here. I am kind of grateful for that season. In the middle of it, I wasn't grateful for that season because it was the middle of the school year. I was right out of college and I had nothing. I was kind of thrown into the, is it thrown to the wolves? I don't even know if I'm saying that right. But anyways, and I just kind of had to figure it out. But my brain has kind of always been that way where I don't know, I just figure things out if I'm forced to. It wasn't easy. I almost quit my first week of teaching, but I knew I need to figure this out. I can't have these kids in here looking at me and I'm looking at them and none of us know what's going on. So I think back, and if I had walked into a classroom with a fully stocked shelf of Orff instruments, I had a ton of drums and xylophones, rhythm instruments, all kinds of things. Not only that, I had a plethora of teaching resources to choose from. I maybe wouldn't have dove as deep into curriculum design as I have. I would have probably been overwhelmed because of the amount to use and to choose off of those shelves, but I also probably would have followed in the footsteps of another teacher who would have probably left me a lot of different ideas or here's some lesson plans you can start with. But when you're forced to kind of start from ground zero, like I was, and maybe I've heard so many of your stories. You've emailed me and shared them with me, where maybe it's not the exact situation I was in, but you find yourself in something similar where you literally just had to figure it out. And so, in a way, looking back all these years later, I'm grateful for that because I know that's what spurred my journey on to um, fast forward to my role right before this one. I did curriculum design projects for various states and music education companies and got to align standards to the curriculum and develop courses. And then I got my master's in educational technology, and then I developed my whole business, and then where I get to serve teachers, and then I was the curriculum coordinator at a previous school, and now I get to be a student success coach, and I'm able to work with students, but also teachers and help develop courses and curriculum online. And it's really neat seeing how this is not where this episode was going to go, but somebody needs to hear this, where maybe you're in a hard season right now in your classroom and you're like, this is not what, or this is not the school I thought I'd be at, or this is not the way I thought this would go once I got in this school. But give it a few years and look back, and you're going to see how your story unfolded and developed. And it's going to be neat to look back and see that. So, this episode is called Why Are There So Many Pieces to Curriculum Design? So, I wanted to go backwards a little bit and share why I'm passionate about this so I can explain, diving into it so much, why I do believe there are a lot of different pieces to it. So first of all, I think that all of the different pieces are needed. They all serve a different purpose. So I think that, if you're not looking at the bigger picture, your overall curriculum for the entire school year, and you're just day-to-day lesson planning or week-to-week lesson planning each week, you're not really going to know where you're going. You're going to kind of be all over the place. I'm speaking from experience. I really am. You're going to just kind of, I don't know, I guess I'll teach this, or I don't think I've covered that concept yet. Did I? I don't know. I don't remember if I did. Oh, well, I'll do it again. And then I remember getting to the end of the school year. And like I said, I started in the middle. And then even the next school year, when I was there a full year, I still got to the end of the school year and looked at like 10 standards I hadn't even covered because I had no rhyme or reason to what I was doing. Were the kids learning music? Absolutely. Was I doing the best I could? Absolutely. Did I know anything about designing curriculum for my classroom? No. So I think curriculum design is important because it helps you know where you're going so you can set goals to get there. So you can break down the pieces each month and each week when you're planning in order to cover the standards, in order to get your kids from point A to Z. And so each stage, I truly do feel sets a purpose and has a reason behind it. I think that when you are looking at different pieces of curriculum design, I know it takes time up front. If you've gone through my curriculum design roadmap course, in module 1, I have a quote that says this, and I'm going to read it to you because I think it's really important. Why does curriculum design work? Although designing a curriculum takes time, putting in the work up front will guarantee less planning and more time to enjoy teaching. It's kind of, it's hard to explain, but basically, when you are putting in the work at the beginning, I'm talking figuring out if you're using a already done for you curriculum map or scope and sequence, or if you're creating your own, you are looking through those resources and really choosing what you're going to teach, and you are knowing what standards you're going to cover and concepts with those songs and activities. You're plugging those into your songs and activities list. You are making sure you know where you're putting those in your curriculum map. That will take time. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. That's how I started. I started by spreading out the few materials I did have, and I went grade by grade level, really I remember having a notebook and a pen and writing out just thoughts, kind of brain dumping on a piece of paper, which eventually did turn into I typed it up more formally, but I started just writing down. this song, okay, this could go here in this month because I'm going to cover these concepts and all those things. And so it does take work up front. You have to be consistent with it and really time block some time to really work on developing these pieces or going through the actual materials in your classroom. The teachers I've worked with, either one-on-one or in group coaching setting, who I feel are the most overwhelmed, are the ones who are just each week looking at your shelf of books you have to use, or maybe you've completed a levels course, which is great, but you're also given a ton of material. I know ORF, I still have this giant ORF notebook, which is amazing. But I remember leaving ORF going, when in the school year do I implement these things? And so I did take the time to go through each thing and figure out what I was teaching, sticky notes out of the wazoo, typing up a songs and activities list, little arrows pointing different directions to map out what I was using so I knew where to go when I was planning. And all of that I do teach extensively in my course. So if you're stuck on this, please come and join me in the course. Actually, on my website, thedomesticmusician.com, you'll also see a free workshop you can take around curriculum design as well. So designing curriculum does take time, but once you do it, it does eventually lead to less planning and more time to enjoy teaching because you're not overwhelmed by the planning part. I also fully believe that creating a curriculum for your music classroom is the single most powerful way to make an impact with your students. Why? Because you know your students better than anyone. You know who they are, how they learn, where they've been, where they need to go, how you're going to get them there, so then you can plan accordingly. Every fourth grader in the state of America, every fourth grader in America is not going to be at the same pace. If there's multiple fourth grade classes in your school, they're not all going to be at the same pace. So you, using your expertise as the music teacher, are going to plan and use curriculum design strategies to plan lessons accordingly. You're going to have a curriculum map and scope and sequence you follow, but it's also not set in stone, and I also teach that in my course. You, as the expert, get to design it and rearrange it the way that fits for you and your students. So all the pieces to curriculum design, they do serve a purpose. They force you to think through the curriculum and how you will use it, all the different curriculum that you have at your disposal. All the different pieces help make sure you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. And so if you are wanting to dive more into curriculum design, I do encourage you, take the free workshop. Look in my show notes on this podcast, or actually you can just head to subscribepage.com/curriculum design workshop, or like I said, head to my website to find it as well. And I hope that you got something from this episode, and have a great day. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook group. Come on over and join us there, where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.